So about 3 years ago, I met a very lovely woman. Her name was Maya. Maya and I met at a club where both of us were surrounded by older, richer men. Now, I know what everyone's thinking, so please hold on to those thoughts, because the context of how Maya and I met and the people who we were surrounded by is going to make so much more sense as I continue to talk. Maya and I hit it off instantly. We're talking about everything and anything. And honestly, if you've ever tried to have a conversation in a club, you already know that's kind of saying a lot. At the end of the night, we exchanged Instagrams, and about a week later, we met up for coffee. And at some point during that conversation, Maya and I were trying to figure out what it was about each other that made us click so fast. We couldn't quite wrap our fingers around it. And then we did. Maya and I both grew up with absent fathers. And that shared thing had turned us into such similar women. Interesting, very switched on, very self-aware, and very hard to crack. But neither of us had really sat down and tried to connect those dots. We were just who we were, and we just kept on moving. I read Substack every day of my life. And one afternoon, I came across an article that was titled, "The Slow Burn of Absent Fathers." I read it. And it was like someone had a mirror in front of me, and that mirror was telling me, yes, Sarah, this is why you do this. This is where this came from, and that was what all that was about. It wasn't asking me to feel sorry for myself. It wasn't giving me excuses, and it wasn't a pity story. What it was doing was, it was making me very self-aware. It was giving me language for things I had been living with without ever really being able to name. I sent it to Maya, we went through it together, and something between the both of us genuinely started to shift. Now, remember I said we met at a club where we were surrounded by rich old men? Here's the thing. Think about any club, any bar, any room where you see younger women gravitating towards older men with money and presence. If you ask those women about their fathers, I bet you 70 to 80% of them would give you the exact same answer. And it's not a coincidence. It's not. It's a pattern hidden in plain sight. Because when you grow up without a father, you spend years looking for something you never got to keep. The first man who was supposed to look at you and say, you're enough, that you're worthy of staying, he was not around, or he left in a way that made some quiet part of you wonder whether you had anything to do with it, or he was around in a way that simply confused you. So when male validation shows up later on in life, it does not just feel good, it feels proof. But what you're chasing is not really attention. It's proof. It's proof that a man can look at you and decide to stay. But that craving does not look the same in every woman. Some become magnetic, always needing someone close by who thinks they're wonderful. Some make themselves endlessly useful to men because tying their worth to what they can offer feels safer than being just loved. Some make themselves completely untouchable because needing someone feels like a risk they cannot take. Then we have the transactional relationship piece of it. The part of it which I think is the most honest and least talked part of it. When you're chasing validation, you end up cycling through multiple relationships. They're not really built on genuine connection. They're built on what each person has to offer, or what you're getting out of it, or a gap that's being temporarily covered. And it's not that these women do not want real love, it's that real love requires a kind of trust they were never taught to build. Real love requires a kind of stillness and security they were never taught to have. So they keep moving, because moving often feels safer than staying and finding out someone is going to leave anyway. And none of that is character flaws. Yet you have entire comment sections of men on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok telling men, stay away from girls who grew up without fathers. They'll sleep around. They'll not treat you well. They're too much. What you're doing is simply taking a wound someone gave her before she was old enough to have any say in it and turn it into a reason to dismiss her. Maya and I still talk. We still send each other TikToks, Instagrams, things that make us say, oh, so this is why I did that. And when that happens, something becomes a little bit sharper. Not clearer, not resolved, just sharper. And I think that is the most honest version of what understanding yourself actually gives you. Thank you.